Welcome to the Friendly Moms Club podcast with Jen and Karlee. We're the new mom friends you didn't know you needed.
We are creating a safe space to bring moms together, lighten the heaviness, and find joy in the everyday moments. Together, we will share our own experiences of being new moms while navigating the topics we wish more people talked about.
Join us every Monday to hear us skip the small talk and dive right into the uncomfortable.
Happy Mom Day, Karlee.
Happy Mom Day, Jen, and Happy New Year.
Yes.
We posted our New Year's podcast episode last week. We looked back on 2023. We kind of predicted or looked forward. What's the word? We forecasted. We discussed the plan. What's happening in 2024?
Family-wise, show-wise, what are our plans going forward? Obviously, I will have the addition of a child very soon, but
That's a
very
really
soon.
big one.
When this episode airs, it's going to be just a couple weeks, if that.
My baby might
crazy.
even be here. I actually have been thinking about it a lot. Like it just hit me. Like, holy shit, Jen's having a baby, and I'm like, I wonder if she knows. Like, does she know? Like, does she?
You know, I don't think about it a lot because it's terrifying to me.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have two children that you love, and how can your heart do? I just it doesn't make sense to me how you can have all these children and have all the same love for them and have the capacity for that. That just seems like so much.
For me, I don't even think about the love thing. I think about the energy and time and patience and mental capacity, not as much like the love. Because but I don't know.
Yeah,
who am I to talk?
but
I don't know anything.
You and I have both had a lot of health issues with the children being sick and not sleeping and a lot of screaming and crying, and so I haven't had the capacity to even think about that stuff because I'm running on fumes just with our one child and the amount of times we've had to go to medical clinics and urgent care and then get sent to the ER, and then it just for all these things, and
your mind has been too busy to even consider that. So thank you to me for pointing that out.
I'll go home. I'll just think about it all night tonight before I sleep. But
anyways, that's
today we're going to talk about child safety.
Yeah, baby safety. Mostly baby safety. We have toddlers now, but I think when we recorded this, we were thinking a lot more baby and kind of up to 12 months. So maybe this will be a good refresher for you, Jen, since...
What else do I need to do moving
Step
forward?
One, hold the head.
And
Support
we also
the neck.
have both transitioned to floor beds. I don't know if we talk about, I think in the episode we talk about how that is in the plan and we're going to do that soon, but we actually both have done it now. So that we'll be talking about that soon and how we baby proof for that, which is, it's a lot.
I think maybe we could do a whole episode on the floor bed and
it's
why we picked it, or I don't know. We'll see.
It's not for everyone for sure, but it's an interesting option.
To be fair, when I think maybe one of our friends was talking about it, you were blown away, a floor bed, what the F is that? And I was I've always wanted one. I think I just love the idea of it. And you were no to the floor bed. You were not interested in it. You were worried that it actually would stress you out more. But then I think maybe you just need to get into a sleep regression or teething deep enough, and then you realize no.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It depends on your child if it's worth it or not. I think it depends on your child and their sleep habits.
For sure.
And their lifestyle, if it's appropriate for. I don't think it's every family for every child should do this. I think it's very child dependent.
I think for us, we both did it mostly out of necessity.
Yes.
Because I think some people do it because they want to help their child gain independence and they get to decide. We're no, it's not about that. It's
I wish that was what it was. I wish that was why. But it's an interesting discussion. I think we definitely should get into this more. But let's just get in for today. More simpler stuff.
Baby safety. Let's talk about it. All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
I'm feeling low energy today.
Me too.
Sick child at home. But even if your kid is sick, everyone's just not doing well.
Everyone's poo.
Really, it just affects the whole house at that point.
I blame them. And Jen and... What's your name? No, your child is Jordan. And Henry always go through their sleep things at the same time.
It's so weird.
It's very weird.
I was talking about how Jordan was up, and all of a sudden she's like, Henry must have heard because Henry's up now. Yeah. And it happens on the same nights. And then other nights they both sleep through the night. And we're okay, so what is happening?
We were on a good roll of him sleeping through the night for a week. And then along comes Jordan with her little sleep regression and calling Henry saying, Henry, we're getting up tonight. Cue the crying. Yeah. But speaking of being tired, you know what I don't do when I'm tired because it is actually too much effort? Drink water.
Oh.
Do you ever get that when you're tired? You're like, I would feel so much better if I just drink a big glass of water.
Yes.
But the thought of drinking water is like exhausting.
And also with a child, I can't just have it in a cup places anymore,
yeah.
because the other day I actually heard like, and I was like, what is that? And I left a glass cup of water out, and she was trying to drink from it, and bless her, she actually did quite well, and there was not a lot of spillage, and she actually drank some. But I'm like, it's still a glass cup, and this is not going to end well. So I had to take it away. But I was like, oh, you actually didn't do that bad.
I actually couldn't do that because the cats.
Oh, yes.
They would always drink my water.
Yeah. So you need one, and I don't want to fall into this Stanley Cup basic girl.
But they're so practical.
But are they worth it? I think that's the question. Because as we were setting up today, Karlee tried to get her water, and it is like a dupe, a knockoff. It's like
tumbler.
A similar...
I actually bought it because it's a coffee mug, and it just happens to come with a straw.
Oh.
But I usually drink it as a coffee mug. But...
Well, anyway, she tried to like move it down, and water spilled everywhere. It's not a spill-proof lid. That's
no,
for
it
sure.
is not.
And so I was saying how I think actually, because when your baby's here, like when you're breastfeeding, it's so good to have one that has a straw that'll actually stay cool, that's big enough that it's not like 2 gulps and then you're done your, you need to drink a lot. It needs to be good.
And also, they're not spill proof in the sense. So the one I've been looking at is the Simple Modern one on Amazon. It's like the Stanley dupe.
Yeah.
But it's not completely spill proof in that, like a water bottle that you can just throw in your bag. But it is spill proof that like it won't come out the top. And the worst is when you're doing an aggressive stroller walk and everything's spewing out the top of your cup.
Like every little bump you hit, it's just
it's very annoying. So I think that one, it's in my cart. I just realized the pattern I want is $10 more than it was a few days ago, which is my sign that I should have ordered it.
It honestly sucks when that happens.
I know.
Or there was a coupon and then you check back and the coupon's not there anymore.
Today we are talking about safety. Well,
yes.
Hacks, safety things. We are not safety experts. We're just a couple of moms who try to keep up with the times. Yep. But we have learned a lot this last year and a bit about a lot of the safety things that a lot of people don't even think of. And some of them blew our minds.
Yeah.
And some of them are more, traditional.
More the obvious ones, but we'll reiterate some of those ones. But
because tired parents need reminders.
And there's some good resources we found and just stuff that we were like, that makes total sense, and I never would have thought about it that way.
Definitely.
So we just thought we'd go over some of those things.
For sure. We're not the experts, but we can point you in the direction of the experts.
Yes, and we can say what we have learned from all of our research, from all the classes we've taken, from all the other moms we've talked to, from all the deep dives on the internet that I've done about baby proofing things.
The Googling.
Yeah, it's never ending.
The Googling.
Okay, so there's different areas of baby safety. So we'll kind of go through some of them. But there's the obvious car seat safety. And that one does get talked about a lot.
Yes, babies need car seats.
But it wasn't, but I think that it's talked about in a way of, yes, your baby needs to be in a car seat. They should be rear facing as long as possible.
Can't be expired.
Strap them in good. I feel like that's the main things. But there's actually a lot more to car seats than that. So we'll talk about that. Choking, like baby first aid in the bath, baby proofing, just overall your house, their bedroom, things like that. Oh yeah, pets.
Yeah, we talk about food a little bit. If you're just starting your feeding journey, you can go back to episode 14 and learn about our experience with baby-led weaning. We talk a little bit more about choking there, or the lack of choking.
Yes, but some more of the baby features in a high chair and a footrest, things like that.
But let's start with car seat.
Okay.
First off, can I just say, working in labor and delivery, one of the criteria for discharge is the parents put baby in the car seat, and then we check to make sure they did it correctly. So we don't actually, our job is not to teach them how to do it. And can I just tell you how many parents get fired up that we want them to try and do it on their own? And it's do you realize that when you leave here, you have to put your child in here on your own? And some of the ways that people put their babies in it, it's funny. And I'm allowed to laugh because I've also made mistakes like that in parenting, in the same way. But I'd rather them, try put baby in completely wrong. But some people are terrified to even touch the car seat. And it's you're going to use this a lot. This really
is why everyone preps for birth. Everyone talks about prepping for birth, but there's a lot more you actually, the nursery doesn't actually matter.
No.
Car seats matter. Your car seat base in your car, seeing a car seat tech, how to actually do the install, how to put a child in there.
Exactly.
Those things, breastfeeding, there's things you actually should prepare for outside of just the actual birth itself.
But they're not as sexy to prepare for, so nobody does. But there's a lot of really good YouTube videos, especially by the manufacturer of the car seats, that talk about install and also how to put the child in safely. So that's a good place to start.
Totally.
But one thing that we learned is that you actually have to register your car seat. So you get this little card in the box when you buy your car seat. And most people, if you're like me, you see anything that looks like instructions and you throw it out the window because you're like, I can't follow these even if I try.
Yep.
And one of those things being the registration card. The reason you need to register is because the company will contact you if there's any recalls or if there's any issues with it that you need to know about.
And if you don't register, you are never going to know unless you randomly happen to like a Facebook group of moms posts about it. But really, your chances of knowing if your car seat was ever recalled is slim to none.
Very slim.
So even if it's used, you can still register under a new name so that you get notified. So like my sister used this car seat and then I used it from her, which I'm not here to say used or new, whatever. There's different schools of thought, but it was my sister's.
Yeah,
but I registered it under my name because it's not her responsibility to get an email and tell me, right? Or maybe you don't know the person that well, or however, you came into this car seat, register it under your own name. You can register it a bunch of times. It doesn't matter.
That's
the important thing is to register it.
Register it. And like Jen said, the recommendation is to always use a new car seat. Mm-hmm. But if it's from somebody that you would trust your own child with, like a sibling or a really close friend, then that's up to you. That's your own judgment call.
Yeah.
I originally used my brother and sister-in-law's car seat for the first month until we decided that we wanted one that we didn't have to use an adapter for our car seat. Mm-hmm. Not for our car seat, for our stroller. But I would trust them babysitting my child, so then I trust their use of the car seat because
and that it wasn't in any accidents. They weren't throwing it around the house.
Yeah, and it's so like it has to be within the expiry, which is easy because it often says the manufacturer date or even the expiry date on the car seat. And then you also need to know that there hasn't been any accidents. And then another thing that I didn't know is also the care of the fabric is really important. So how you wash the fabric. Certain companies allow like certain detergents, certain washing styles. So some you can actually take off and put in the washing machine. Some you can't. Some you can only spot clean. So apparently that makes a difference. But like I said, that's your judgment call.
Yeah.
And
actually about the whole booklet thing and never reading manuals, I never read it. But I actually did have to read the manual for our convertible car seat. So Karlee and I ended up getting the same one just in a roundabout way. Like not for any specific reason, but Costco sale. We liked it. Anyways, we both ended up having it, and I watched the like manufacturer's video, and they didn't talk about this like this extra headpiece and the infant insert, and it doesn't tell you at what age and what weight that needs to come out. And so I found that one of the pieces had to come out at a certain point, but I missed that if you take one of them out, you have to take the other out. But then Karlee saw that in the manual, and we both actually had to look through the manual. And I was like, "Oh, this is actually helpful." And we had to actually put the work in.
I know. I read the damn manual, and it was helpful, and it bothered me. But
we didn't see it in the videos. In all of my googling about like installs for it, I didn't see it. So.
And it wasn't intuitive because they were two separate pieces. Like one was like the infant insert under the butt, or I don't know if it was the infant one. And then the other one was like behind the head. And they were the same color, so they go together. But it didn't say that you could only use one or you had to use them both at the same time.
Yes. If you're going to take out one, you have to take out both.
Yeah.
Anyways, just the manual is not actually stupid and a waste of time. It's actually very helpful about car seats and safety.
You can also find them online too.
Yes.
If you don't actually have the physical copy or you don't want to keep the physical copy, they're actually very easy to find on the internet.
Yes, they are.
That's very nice.
Something we did, I don't know if, did you guys? Oh yeah, you did it, right? Yeah. So we went to a car seat, a certified, I don't know, it's a CPST. It's certified. We should have looked this up, but they're basically like car seat technician pros. And here in our local area, the Greater Vancouver area, there's a company that does it, and you can book online, you can find them close to your area, and it's all by donation. So they make it accessible even if you can't afford to pay them anything. So a lot of them will do it for free, $5, $10, like whatever you're comfortable donating. And ours was almost an hour long. Like it was very long, very informative. Thorough. They show you how to install the type of car seat you have into the type of car you have, which is very important because some installs are easier in some cars and others, and depending on the size of the car, where you want to install, how you want to install, if you're going to do the seatbelt or the latches. And anyways, ours was amazing. We loved her, like so knowledgeable, and they teach you and then they make you do it and see how you do it to see if you do it correctly. And they go over a few car seat like safety tips too at the end. Ours just went through some of like the basics. And which
weren't so basic.
I know,
like
but like
securing flying objects in your car. And I was like, oh, I guess I should take that hammer out of my back seat. Like,
yes, like projectiles, which I never would have thought about. But she was like, oh, you just don't want to have anything like, you don't want to have heavy textbooks on the seat beside your baby, because if you do get in an accident and those go flying, that could be really dangerous to hit your child.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
Yeah, I just never thought of projectiles that way.
Exactly.
But this one tech that I saw speak about car seat safety before Jordan was even born, she was in a car accident only weeks after having her baby. And she says the first thing she saw when she like went back to look at her car to see the damage, like after, you know, firefighters, police came, whatever, she went back and she had a coffee mug and there was coffee all up the roof of her van, like all into the backseat and into the trunk. So her coffee mug actually was a projectile and it went all through the vehicle. And luckily it ended up in the trunk. But she's like, you just don't think about projectiles. So like actually bags and stuff, you should seatbelt in or have a way to attach them, or you know, just things just to keep in mind.
I can't put my coffee down when I'm driving. I have to keep holding it.
Well, this is
not safe in the cup holder.
And like,
well, that's not safe either, holding it.
Technically, anything extra in your car is not safe. Like all of these car seat mirrors and sunshades technically aren't safe if they're not like the same brand of car seat and allowed in the manual. But as they said, it's also your comfort level. If you want to see your child and that helps your anxiety and you feel safer doing it, it's probably the safer option for you than not doing. You know, like
definitely.
You have to also take your feelings and
for sure. And I think the only one that really affects the install is when you put blankets or like a seat cover underneath the car seat. So that one, so some brands allow you to put a towel underneath, and some allow like their brand specific seat protector, but not other brands. And I think that one can actually affect the install, where like the other things in the car, like the mirror and the shade things, those don't actually affect the safety of the car seat itself. It just affects safety in the car. Which if I'm not going to have a mirror, then I shouldn't technically have a water bottle or a, you know, your level of comfort as a parent.
Another one about the effectiveness of the car seat will also be a baby having like too puffy of clothing. So like putting them in their snowsuit, or, you know, any puffy jackets, even sweatshirts, like if the hood is bundled up behind their head and neck, we find that it sits them funny and that can be dangerous. So you really want to have like thin layers when you're going to be buckling them in.
So there's this gal, Safe in the Seat on Instagram, like literally just at Safe in the Seat. She is a CPST, which is a child passenger safety technician. We looked that up.
I was not correct. I was not close. Okay.
You were close. Child passenger safety technician. And she posts about different car seats. She posts about things like common myths, common errors, common safety things that people don't consider. And it's very helpful. But she has a winter safety post about what kinds of sweaters and jackets are okay and what ones should be avoided. So I'll find that and I will link it into the show notes. And I'll link her because she has some wonderful stuff. She also talks about issues with certain car seats that people have in certain cars, like, oh, if you can't get a good install because of this, try this tip. And she's actually a CPST, so she's legitimate.
There's this Facebook group that I find super helpful, and it has a whole bunch of CPSTs on it, and we'll also link this in the show notes. But I found it just really helpful because you can say, I have this vehicle and I'm looking for a bucket seat, or I'm looking for a convertible seat. Does anyone have any experience of which ones are a good fit? Like this kind of price range, this is the age of my child and their height and weight. And everyone that comments will either say not a tech or CPST. So you know if you're getting advice from actually someone certified or just another mom who said, you know, I looked, we have a Tesla. And I was like, the Tesla's not huge. Like what type of convertible seat? You want one that's not ginormous because there's not a ton of seats in the Tesla Model 3. So I was trying to find one that would be small enough but still safe. And anyway, so I went on there. Karlee's been on there. She posted about it. Super helpful. So if you just want help and advice about finding the best car seat that'll safely fit in your vehicle type
and functional work too. Although don't ever post a video or a picture in there because you will get ripped to shreds. People are about like feisty. But speaking of photos, the amount of people or pictures I see of people posting their kid in the seat, and I like cringe because I'm like, are they driving like that, or do they just have the kid in and they're just taking a photo? Or if they're in the stroller with the bucket seat, and like, is this how they're driving, or is this just like they loosened it in the bucket seat? And I don't ever want to say anything, but then also feel upset because I'm like, that's not safe. Like the chest clip isn't at the armpit, it's like at the belly button. And I'm like, I don't say anything, but maybe
I try to avoid ever posting a photo because I don't want those.
You don't want those comments, but you know you're using your seat safely. So what if that person isn't using their seat safely and they don't know? They posted it on the internet, so they're going to get every Susan telling them. But I have heard that you know, everyone talks about, oh, like, what is the safest seat? And the safest seat is the one that is installed and used correctly.
In your vehicle.
In your vehicle. And so many times, like, the actual use, it's like birth control. The birth control pill is what, like 98% accurate, or what's accurate? No. Effective. But I'm like, what is it? But the actual typical use is like 80 something %. So you don't actually, it's not as reliable.
Yeah, if you have the most expensive car seat and it's not installed, that's a waste of money and time, and it's not going to be safe. You should have bought $100 one and installed it correctly.
And if you're not installing it correctly, if you're not putting the child in correctly, or if you're not using it correctly by having them in like big, heavy winter coats, and why does it matter if you have the fanciest car seat on the block if it's not in properly? So that also, you don't need expensive car seats.
I feel like we could go forever.
Oh my goodness.
We've spent way longer on car seats than I ever thought we would.
We're very passionate about car seats.
Yes.
One more thing to add, which we all know, and I'm pretty sure we all did not follow, is it's not safe to have your baby in the bucket seat, so like the infant seat, when it's not in the base. And the reason for this is that it's at a specific angle when it's in the car in the base, or the stroller's okay too, because it's tilted back a little bit, and there is a high risk of asphyxiation from like their neck coming forward, like when they're chin to chest. So the way I got around this was I would just put a towel under the car seat and
to angle it back
like way farther than it was in the car.
Yeah.
But that is my mom hack, not a recommendation. It's just what I did, because
here we are talking about safety. Yes. Here's a way to get around the safety.
Yes. But it's about the angle, and I get it but also
lifestyle, sleeping baby. If your baby never sleep, like if that's the only way you're going to get sleep, then this is the safest way to use it. Totally.
It's safer. Like it's like we talked about the second best. Yeah. Parenting. So like maybe it's not the safest, but it's safer than plunking him down in the bucket seat and having his head topple forward.
No, I do like that. It's a good second best parenting thing. Like sometimes that's the only way your child's going to sleep, and you need to do it for everyone's mental well-being.
Exactly.
And you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Don't put him in another room. Keep him right in front of you. Stare at him. All of that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to the next one. Choking.
We found the number one thing for like actual first aid was taking a first aid course.
Yes.
Woohoo!
Very helpful.
Okay, well, Karlee didn't take it, but she's a nurse.
No, but I also did review, like when Jeff came home, we went over it together because it's helpful.
And you don't always forget if it's you're not using it. Oh, I hope you're not using infant CPR and choking every day, right? It's not something that you want to use all the time, but you want to know how to do it just in case.
Exactly.
So this Safe Beginnings here, like if you are local, they do in-person first aid courses, and we just got a group together. They came to one of our mom's houses, and we did it together. We've talked about this in another episode, in the eating one, episode 14, I guess, but it was just so helpful to know. Like it gives you a lot more confidence going into baby-led weaning, but just in general, they could, like, we're going to talk later about baby-proofing the house, but batteries or like choking on other objects that they find around the house. And it's really, really important to actually know what to do if your infant is choking or
exactly. I think Solid Starts, who also has very good resources for infant and toddler CPR, they posted an Instagram post about common choking hazards in the house, and then it's actually more common for them to choke on loose items in the house than it is for them to choke on food, because you're being very vigilant with them in the car seat. You're giving them only safe food, or not car seat, the high chair, giving them only safe foods. You're watching them, you're within the arm's reach. And then they're done their meal and you put them on the ground, and then they're roaming around and finding little bits and bobs on the floor that
one thing I never thought of that I saw online was that like the doorstop, the actual tip of the doorstop comes out, and a lot of babies will find the doorstop, right, and they're like ding ding, and the thing is like making fun noises for them, but then that little tip comes off, the white tip on them, and then that can be a choking hazard for young age babies.
I don't know if I have any doorstops. I just thought of that.
We have one that Jordan loves in the bathroom.
Yeah, I don't have any. That's so sad. Henry's
but Solid Starts also has a free first aid pamphlet that you can download from them, and it's free, so it's accessible. And our advice is just print it. Like you can put it on the fridge with a magnet. You can print it and just have it somewhere in the house, so you, or if someone's babysitting, at least has some sort of quick reference guide. I mean, obviously you're probably going to call 911, but it's good to have this guide easily accessible too. And just to refresh, like read through it every couple months, even
gentle reading. Yeah, we printed it and made copies for the grandparents for them to have. Although now we're in like this awkward point where we were going to give it to, I literally printed it for my mother-in-law one day, and Jeff brought it home from work and we hadn't given it to her yet. And then that day we were at her house and she was hitting Henry's back when he wasn't even choking. He was just like coughing on something. And Jeff's like, no, don't do that. And then they got into like a little tiff about like, oh, well, I've raised 4 kids
in my days.
Yes,
we
exactly.
hit on the back,
and that's a big thing that in solid starts they say not to actually hit on the back. And now we're like, okay, well now it seems funny timing to then give her this
passive aggressive,
yes,
like
but
slide it in.
We'd already printed it out for her. We just hadn't given it to her yet. So now the time has passed, so we can actually give it. But
yeah, choking hazard is about things on the house.
Yeah.
And so we learned this actually from our first aid course about the toilet paper roll hack. And so it's a mom hack of like, you take an empty toilet paper roll, and if anything can go into that toilet paper roll, it's not safe.
It's actually quite big, a toilet paper roll.
Yeah, so you think about all the things that would fit through it. Like that's a lot of things you need to remove from the floors. Like, anyways, but I was like, that's a really cheap, even if you don't use it, but you just picture a toilet paper roll, it gives you a good enough reference that you'll be like, nope, choking hazard, nope. Like, it gives you a really good point of reference for starting out of what's safe or not safe.
And that's not for food. That's for items in the house.
Yes, like, that's for like random toys or like, especially if you get hand-me-down toys, you don't know what age they're for, right? You're just got boxes or bags. So it's good to check those.
Or if you have older siblings too,
yes,
right?
It's good to just check like, oh, what age group is this actually for? Does it go through the toilet paper roll? Okay, not yet. Like, they need to get older.
Those little toy cars, those are such a hazard, but they're everywhere.
I know.
Speaking of little choking hazards, also button batteries. So those are those little round flat ones that, all batteries can be choking hazards, and all of them can cause issues if they're swallowed. But particularly the button batteries can actually be fatal if ingested and are there for like, it's a very short amount of time, like hours or something.
Button batteries are very dangerous. I think is the good thing to just reiterate. Very, very dangerous.
More dangerous than just a regular old AA,
yeah.
Which obviously you don't want your child eating that, but button batteries, get rid of them. Although Jen was like, they just don't have them, but we have several remotes in our house that require them.
I know. But every baby toy,
they don't have those, and they have screws to hold the batteries in.
Because they say a lot of baby toys, like if you're using something for an older age group, they might have a button battery, and the actual like where the battery compartment is, it might not be hard to get into. So then babies can get into it. Like, you know how sometimes they have screws, but sometimes it's just like the clip to open the battery compartment. So you want to make sure just the toys that you have out are actual baby safe toys that are like screwed in battery compartments.
So can baby toys be sold with button batteries?
I don't know.
In my head, I was thinking they have to be other batteries like AA or whatever, but maybe that's something good to look into. If you do have if you're one of those sinful parents with battery operated toys, to make sure that
we say that in jest. We both have a lot of them.
Yes, we do. So yeah, good to know. I feel like the ones I have are just I
feel like mine are all screwed in too. Like they're quite safe.
But even if they're screwed in, I still don't want a button battery hiding in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe they're all button batteries. I'm looking at you, Walker.
Yeah.
That Jen gave me.
I secretly was trying to harm your child. You're right.
Yes. Yes. On the line of choking as well, and also baby proofing, pet food. So our cats my cats, they're princesses and princes. They're very high maintenance. They eat specifically dental food, which are the perfect size of like little choking hazards. They're like the size of peanut M&Ms, like literal perfect choking hazards. And they also are very high maintenance and require feeders. So they don't just have a bowl. They have like these little feeders with all these different cups. So
that would look fun to a baby.
So fun to a baby. They're so enticing. And Henry's favorite thing is moving the cat food in between all the different containers. Like, I don't blame him. It's a great game.
And it's a green container. I mean,
exactly.
I'm here all the time. I see it.
You know it. So it's very enticing to him, but they're also perfect little choking hazards. And then on top of that, pets, even the most like docile, gentle pets, can become aggressive around their food. So even if you've never had any situations with your pets being aggressive, just put a baby in their food bowl, and that's a good way to test them. So we have addressed this by blocking off, like putting a gate into the kitchen. But that still doesn't stop him. He still finds a way to the pet food. But they're choking hazards. And I mean, my cats are a little bit different than dogs, but dogs can get quite aggressive with their food.
Yeah. So our dog like really isn't aggressive at all, but we still don't let Jordan near her when she's eating. Like, we feed her in the kitchen. And I guess the same, talking about baby proofing, what Karlee and I both have been able to do, which it really depends on your house layout. So not everyone can do this, but we found it just much easier to just block off the kitchen in its entirety. So I actually have my kitchen and dining room blocked off, and I even have like a giant like 3 to 4 foot entrance into the dining room, but I was able to find just a big expandable baby gate. And for us, it just gave us peace of mind that all the like cleaning, the glass dishes, like all the pots and pans, the dog food, like everything that's in a kitchen that's so scary and needs to be baby proofed, like we just don't have to worry about it as much. Like you still worry if the door's left open, she gets in there. Like you still need to be aware and do some baby proofing, but not to the same extent.
Yeah.
So if you're able to, honestly, it's just such a nice peace of mind to just block off the kitchen. And then you can feed your pets there, keep the pet food. Mm-hmm. Like you don't have to worry as much about it. Mm-hmm. But not every layout can do that.
Exactly.
So,
and even if like we do block off the kitchen, but Henry has a meltdown if I'm in there and he's not in there. Mm-hmm. So if we're both in the living room, he's fine. Or if like one of us is in the living room, or if he's just like really into his toys. But if he wants to be near me and I'm in the kitchen, then it's meltdown city. Yep. So he has his own cupboard in there. And then the only time he's in the kitchen is when he's being supervised.
Yes.
Instead of making it like a free
totally baby proofed zone.
Yeah, but it's not a place that he can just go and play. Like if I have to like run down and get the laundry or something, I won't leave him in the kitchen. Yes. I'll block him out. Another good tip that I heard another parent say once is that the oven is always hot. So the kid was reaching towards the oven and I was like, they were like, oh, it's hot. And I'm like, oh, it's not on. And they're like, no. Like to a child, the oven is always hot. And I'm like, it makes way more sense than that, because then they don't need to know, is it hot? Is it not hot?
Is it on? Is now okay? Not okay?
What else for baby proofing? Okay. Oh, cabinet locks. So cabinet locks, especially for cabinets that have like sharp things or chemicals in them. We have just decided to have any like really strong chemical down in the garage so that we don't have to worry about baby proofing it. But we do have things like dish soap, and I think there's like rubbing alcohol and like other things underneath the sink as well, which we do have a cabinet lock on. But anything that would be like even more problematic, like bleach or something that would actually harm their skin if it touched them immediately, just maybe keep that out of the high traffic areas. You still want to baby proof it wherever it is, but if it's not in a high traffic area or a place that the baby or child would be going alone. So like bathrooms, that's a fun place for them to go and play. So maybe don't keep the really dangerous stuff where they might wander off to. And it might be a little bit more work for you to have to go somewhere to get it, but it's a lot easier than the alternative. That's dark. That's dark.
Speaking of the terrible alternative, and this is something we have to bring up, even though it is not fun and it's just dark and but anchoring furniture. The recommendation is anything over 3 feet. We personally at our house, we have a couple things that were less than 3 feet, but I was just like, I would just feel better if this was anchored. So we anchored it because you can buy them pretty inexpensively off Amazon. There's different styles, but we just anchored lots of things. And sometimes we use 3 instead of 2 anchors just because for my peace of mind, I wanted to make sure it was really secure. But anchor anything over 3 foot, at least 3 feet, if not a little bit lower. And that's anything that they're reasonably going to get into. Like ours is in our living room. We had to do bookshelf. We did the bookshelf we have for Jordan. We had her dresser in her room. There's actually quite a few things that you end up wanting to anchor when you look at it, because this is one of those child safety things that you don't get a second chance. So there's lots of child safety things that we'll talk about that's like, this is good, but if they end up, pinching their fingers in a cabinet.
Yeah, not the worst thing.
Cutting themselves on glass. Not the worst thing, bring them to the hospital.
Not ideal, but not fatal. Like you have more than one chance.
But furniture tipping over can be fatal.
So take a look, see what you got.
This is a very, very important one to actually not just think about, but do. You have to actually do this. If you're only going to listen to one thing we talk about today, this is probably the most important one.
And also doing things even in rooms that you don't go into. So even if your child doesn't go into your office or your study, learn from Miranda Bailey on Grey's Anatomy that if you don't close the gate or the door, the kid can get in. Remember that? When her little guy?
No. But they also say it's good to... Sorry, you can finish your story.
No, it's not. It's just her child got into a room and then her and her husband were fighting over who left the gate open, and he's not supposed to be in that room, but then a bookcase fell on him and he was okay, but he was hurt very seriously.
Babies are fast.
They're so fast.
And they know when you're not paying attention, so then they go quiet. Like
little buggers.
They are they're good.
Yeah, I know. I'm like looking around my house, like what else do I have to anchor? Well, that cabinet is really heavy, but the drawers don't even open, so he can't get that knocked
I think with cabinets they can be really heavy, but if the drawers can open, then it changes the center of gravity, like the balance of it. So that's the big concern. So even big dressers that are really heavy, if the child is opening the drawers, like Jordan opened the drawers of her dresser and she tried to climb in and then climb to get on the top, and ours is anchored, so thank goodness. But like that could be really dangerous. So that's where, like, even if it's heavy, you still want to anchor it.
Definitely.
If it has drawers that even open.
Yeah.
I've tried to open that one. So I admit that he's not opening that.
No. I can't even, like, the bottom one doesn't even, like, literally doesn't open. It's devastating. Windows. Okay, well, one, keeping windows closed, and two, screens aren't actual baby proofing.
Correct.
Ours actually have to, like, you have to pull them in, but, like, you could rip a screen, they could figure out how to take it out. So keeping kids away from open windows.
Yeah.
And then also the blinds with the cords. So we have, like, an exceptional amount of windows in our place, but they're all really small. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the main floor. And they all had a set of blinds on them with the giant cord, and our ceilings are really high, so then the cord was really, really long because it had to go the length of the window. So we just took them all down because, well, one, we never used them, but yeah.
So you actually can't buy, so in Canada you can't buy these blinds anymore that have so when you pull the blinds up, the cord gets longer and longer, and then it basically reaches the floor in most people's places, right? So you can't actually buy those. As of May of 2022, you could no longer buy them in Canada, which was something I learned, and blinds are very expensive. We didn't have any blinds in our house, so we had to buy them, and those were the ones I pictured just being, like, the cheapest blinds, and I was like, oh, now we need to buy these expensive double pane. Anyways, blinds are expensive. So Karlee, it was a good fix. Like, a mom hack there, like, we never even close our blinds, so why don't we just take them down?
Exactly.
So I think that's actually if you're never going to use them.
There's, like, little things you can get to, like, jimmy the little thing up, but, like, if I'm doing that, why I don't use them. And fun fact, when I took those ones down over there, I was butt naked because I got really hot doing the other ones. And then when I got to the last few windows, I had, like, stripped off all my clothes. I think I was maybe wearing a thong, and I'm on a step stool up on the window facing our neighbors.
You are, like, the naked neighbor. We've said this in several episodes. You are that person.
And when I got up there, I was like, maybe I should not do this butt naked. But whatever.
So, one of those jobs that probably, if you're taking blinds off open windows, you shouldn't be butt naked. But you do you.
I know. And I was taking away my one defense. I was taking away the blind.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Oh, well.
Whatever.
So another thing that I want to say before we move on is that if you want to do a Montessori floor bed, did I do it right?
Close enough.
No. She doesn't like the way I say it. Okay, I don't know. If you want to do a floor bed, let's just say floor bed. It's a whole different ball game because all the child-proofing stuff we're talking about, you're with your child. You are still there supervising. But if you're going to do a floor bed, you're basically saying you can wake up whenever you want. We're not going to be in your room, and all has to be safe.
Yeah. Not whenever. Yeah, I know they can, but, like, please don't still wake up too early. Yes.
Oh, yes. I'm like, but yeah, the whole point is that maybe they wake up at 6, but then they play with their toys for an hour, right? Like, you're leaving them unsupervised where you might not even be awake. And that is terrifying for lots of, I mean, it's terrifying for me, but we're still debating doing it. We've already started the process of baby proofing, but it's like you have to think about a lot of things that I had never thought about baby proofing. And we've done a lot in our house, but this was like a whole different ball game. And so basically the best thing is to take most things out of the room. Like, really, that's the easiest way to do it. Yeah.
I think mentally the way I'm approaching it is if I look at everything and I, like, take it all out of the room and, like, hey, what is the actual essential? So we need somewhere to put his clothes. So his dresser is pretty low, but we'll anchor it, and then his bed, and then, like, what else do they need? Nothing really. Toys.
Yep, some toys or books.
And then finding a way to baby proof the cords, which there's tons of things on Amazon. Yep. But the hardest one we're coming across is the baseboard heaters.
Yes.
Even if we don't turn them on, then they're still sharp because they have those little razor blades in them.
Yep.
And then if we want to turn it on, I don't think they get hot enough that they could, like, seriously hurt him, but the things are really sharp. He's cut his finger multiple times on them.
And if they put things in
them, yeah.
Yes, that's also a concern for them. We were lucky ours are floor vents, and we don't actually use them. We got a new heating air conditioning system. So anyways, we don't actually have to use them. So we could just block the floor vent, which was, like, an easy solution. But if you have baseboard heaters like we had in our townhouse, I have no idea.
Yeah. There's things you could buy online, like little safety things.
But they're expensive,
They're
right?
really expensive.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only one we'll have to do. But they're, like, hundreds of dollars.
Just, if you're thinking about this floor bed, just think about that side of things too, right? It's actually a big undertaking. It's not just like, oh, that's fun, we'll do the floor bed. That looks
Definitely.
fun, and they'll play.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's huge save. We're actually taking Jordan's dresser out of her room because A, it's a small room, but B, my anxiety just can't do it. But
yeah, and there's more. You got to baby proof and then actually do the floor bed. You can't do the floor bed and then baby proof.
Yeah, no, it has to be fully baby proofed, and then you can put the floor bed in there. And then the floor bed also has to be safe. Like there's just so much.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
That's why we haven't done it yet. It's been on my, I've always wanted to do a floor bed. And now that he's back to waking up, I'm like, this would be so nice if we could just cuddle in bed on the floor.
Yeah.
But we can't.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're working our way there. Another thing to consider is toxic houseplants. So if you have pets, you know that some, well, maybe you don't know. Now you know that some plants can actually be really toxic to animals. And some of those plants can also be toxic to humans. So I've never had this issue because I have cats that eat everything. So all of my plants are safe.
And I only have fake plants. So I'm good because I can't keep other ones alive.
Yeah, so just double check because some of them might just cause like stomach irritation, but some of them can actually be fatal for pets. So I don't know if any of plants can be fatal for humans. Speaking of pets, the cat is rubbing on Jen. There. Yeah. So just something to consider there. And dirt. Why do they always want to eat the dirt out of the plants? I mean, I let him, but maybe.
Good immune system. They got to build it up somehow.
It's good for them.
Okay, so bath. Moving on to bath. This was another one I learned in the first aid course that I did that I never thought about because we actually bought one of those little rubber duckies that like you can turn on. It tells you the temperature. It flashes green if it's a safe temperature. But
you don't need that.
You don't need it. They told us like, so a baby's skin is just thin. So it's not as like developed, doesn't have as many layers. Is my understanding, right? So it's just like a thinner, more sensitive when they're babies. So what you actually want to do is put your elbow, and I guess like the inside of your elbow is thinner skin,
more sensitive,
and it's more sensitive, and so it acts more like how a baby's skin would feel the water. So they say just like fill the water up and then dunk your elbow in, and if it feels warm to your elbow, then it's probably too warm for the baby. But if it feels fine on your elbow, the inside of your elbow, it's probably fine for baby.
At work, we say the elbow or your inside of your wrist, but like not your hand, like right where like where your watch would touch.
Yeah, I just like that. I was like, oh, so you don't have to buy this stupid rubber ducky battery thing that's
definitely don't.
An extra thing. There's just extras of everything, right? In motherhood and parenting that you want to buy all this stuff. So your elbow, your wrist, there you go.
There you go.
Mom hacks for the win.
But one thing that you can buy that actually does help, we talked about in our 6 to 12 or 0 to 6 bath.
No,
one
our
of
6
our
to 12 one
is one of those nice non-slip bath mats. We got ours off Amazon. It was like $20 and it is life-changing. And the other day I got into the bath with Henry and it doesn't feel funny when you sit on it. So that is something to consider too if you have like texture sensory issues. Some of them are like that really yucky like public pool feeling to them.
Yeah. It's just you don't realize how slippery a bathtub is.
So slippery.
To a child until we put her in without one and she was slipping and sliding and we're like, oh, this is actually dangerous. So we ordered one that night.
And then another thing too is you can get a spout cover. So we literally just ripped a piece of pool noodle off and we put it on ours because I don't know, ours is like a really funny shape. It's like square, but then also the shower, like the thing to make it go to the shower is on the top of it. So I don't know if any of the cute little skip hop ones will work. Something is good.
Yeah, just to protect. It can be sharp, and if they fall and hit their head on that, or like shoving their hands up there.
Yeah. Also, then they like to play with it. Henry's favorite thing is taking it off and then putting it back on, or taking it off and then standing up and bonking his head.
Of course, right? Why not? I think that's all for the bath. Just like a few quick things we learned.
Yeah, and then we talked about
toilets.
Toilets.
We
Those
forgot
damn
about
toilets.
Yeah.
Why do kids love toilets?
Honestly, and they're so frustrated because no one wants to. Like, what if you really have to go and I'm running into the bathroom? I don't want to unhook a toilet lid so I could pee or poop or vomit. Yes. All of the above is happening.
All at the same time.
I don't want to have to do that, but it's dangerous. And what we didn't consider, and we saw this, it was one of, I think it might have been Safe Beginnings, but they actually said like with babies, they're so head heavy that if they actually go to a toilet and they try to climb in it, their head can get stuck and it can kill them. Like it's extremely dangerous. So
just toilets.
You gotta figure out a way to make them safe for you. And if that is, there's locks. They're not super expensive again on Amazon. But another thing you have to add to the list of like look into how you're gonna do this.
Keeping the doors closed. Yes. Henry will have the seat down and he'll lift it and jam his fingers in it. And then he'll cry and he'll be like slamming the lid onto his fingers and not realizing that it's him doing it. But he'll get there. He'll get there.
Yes. I mean, that's better than him trying to climb in it. Jordan just likes to put her hands in the water. And I'm like, that's so gross. But like, anyways, we're having that issue now. No. But yeah, I think those are all of the safety things that we really thought of. And there's just a few resources that we talked about throughout and a few things we said we'll link. But just to go over a couple of them again is Solid Starts. They talk about food safety. They have the free first aid course that you can print out, but then also like sizes of foods and the best sitting position for them, and like the importance, and then as their ages change, what size food and what foods to avoid at what ages, allergies,
how to create a safe eating environment.
Yeah, so they talk about all of like the food and choking safety stuff. Safe Beginnings, their Instagram is just super, super knowledgeable for everything baby safety, not just car seats. Like she talks about buying baby gates and actually the importance of buying an actual baby gate and not making one. Anyway, she talks about all sorts of things. She's also just lovely and I like following her. So Safe Beginnings on Instagram. They also have a website, and that's where you can do first aid courses, and there's really good first aid resources on their website. And then the other one is Safer Seats, and that's where you can find the CPSTs in your area. I know that they do it in the whole like Greater Vancouver, Lower Mainland area. I don't know what this looks like. Like if you're in the States or in a different other country, I don't know if you have CPSTs. Like I think that's a thing in North America.
Yeah.
But definitely recommend looking in your area to see if you have some sort of like car seat.
For sure. And then the Instagram account that I mentioned is Safe in the Seat, and she is a CPST, I believe, in the States, but in North America. And I just looked, and actually this will be after Black Friday, but she also posts about sales that come up for car seats,
which is good. Yeah. There's the Facebook group we'll post about car seats. Like there's lots of good resources that you can find and lots of stuff for free. Solid Starts, actually, I didn't know this in the beginning, but they have like for low income families, if you can't afford, so they have courses that you can buy. I've never bought any. I use their free resources, but if you want any of their courses, they actually, if you're low income or struggling, you can apply for it and they give you the courses for free. Nice. And I really liked that. Like that is nice. If it's just not in your means to buy these programs, but you really need them, then they still have access to them through that. So
they're doing good stuff, making things accessible.
They are amazing.
But that's that.
Yeah.
And that's how to keep things safe. Don't listen. No, that's the word. Please listen. Like I said, we're not experts in safety, but we can point you in the right direction. So
yeah, and these are some of the stuff we've just come across these tips, seen how difficult certain aspects of baby proofing and safety is, and just stuff we wanted to go over. So hopefully you learned something new. And
you know what the best way to figure out what you have to baby proof? Invite someone over with an older child and then make notes. When my nephew came over, I was like, wow. So I'm going to have to baby proof that. I'm going to have to baby proof that. I'm going to have to baby proof that. And it was good. I was like, okay, I got my list of things.
Also just get down on their level.
Yes.
Like you have to get down and be like, oh yeah, they can get into this and this. And oh, that outlet I never saw is actually down low. It was just hidden by something, but they can you have to get on their level. Those are our tips from our not expert safety stuff.
That's us.
So yeah. All right. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.
Ciao, ciao.